Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Teacher Development Webinars. My name is Amanullah Sand. I facilitate virtual programs at Teacher Development Webinars. I welcome you all at Teacher Development Webinars. Teacher Development Webinars is a social action project implemented by British Council active citizens in Pakistan as a response to COVID-19 crisis. It is an initiative to support teachers around the world with professional development opportunities. We are thankful to Master English Training for sponsoring our Zoom account. And for this webinar, Teacher Leadership During Tough Times, will present strategies we can use to care for community as well as ourselves during tough times. We'll provide 4 techniques to support and sustain the work during COVID or when other challenges arise. And now I'm delighted to introduce Ms. Deidre Combs for this webinar. Deidre Combs is the author of 3 books, Approaches to Resolving Conflict and Overcoming Challenges, The Why of Conflict, Worst Enemy, Best Teacher, and Thriving Through Tough Times. Dr. Combs is a management consultant, executive coach, mediator, and co-instructor in Montana State University's Leadership Fellows Certification Program. Combs has worked with a variety of corporate, government, and NGO clients since 2007. She has also taught intensive leadership training. She holds a BA in mathematics and Spanish from the University of Wisconsin Madison, a master's degree in information systems technology from George Washington University, and a doctorate focused on world religions from UCS Napa University. We are delighted to have you, Dr. Combs. Welcome to Teacher Development Webinars.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me. And what a joy to be with all of you teachers from around the world. I'm seeing some names and that are familiar to me, and knowing that some of you are in Pakistan, Assalamu alaikum, and others are spread across the world. So I'm so glad that you were able to join us this morning, this evening. It is 9:30 p.m. and in Montana, so it is very dark and late here, and I love that many of you have already started a new day. So welcome, welcome. Yes, look, we have friends from Sri Lanka on here. So teachers across the world trying to do good things and help people in these very difficult times. So we are going to begin. I am going to share my screen and share some slides with you to.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, let me do that. Here we go. There we go. Here we are. And I'm still learning. There we are. Play from the beginning. All right, everyone. Again, welcome to this Teacher Develop webinar, and it is a joy to be in the company of teachers again all around the world. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about teacher leadership through tough times. I want to, as you heard, a bit of an introduction about me, and want to talk to you about being a teacher leader. And 4 skills that I hope will support you as you are supporting others in your classrooms and beyond your classrooms. Want to have some time to share. Again, we are on Facebook Live. We are as well here on Zoom. So hopefully we can field some questions that I will then, inshallah, be able to answer while we spend this time together. So I wanted to talk to you first about what does it mean to be a leader. It's so often we think, well, I'm not a leader. I work with many State Department programs from all over the world. And what I continue to find is that when I ask people on leadership development programs, I say to them, do you consider yourself a leader? And, not everyone in the room will raise their hand. So one of the things that makes sense to me is that we get intimidated. We're told, oh, leaders are a certain age, leaders are a certain gender, leaders have certain skills. But I was thrilled to see this. Let's see, hopefully you can see this. There, let me try this. There we go. Let's see here. There. This is a quote that has served me and has served thousands of leaders well over the last decades as we've been thinking about how to become more confident leaders. So to think instead that I might not be a leader because maybe I'm not running a large company or I'm not the principal of the school, but if we think of leadership in this term, with this quote from Margaret Wheatley, that a leader is anyone who wishes to help at this time. We are all leaders, especially when you think of being in the classroom. I know that working with some of you that I know are on this call today, that your work is to serve others in your community, and especially to serve your students. And so if you think of it, is that our job is to really just to help, which means that we're trying to lead people to a better place. I wanted to give you a simple example. In 2012, I was working on a program called the Middle Eastern Partnership Initiative, and I met Miriam Kabach, who was a young student in Casablanca, Morocco. And as we worked together, she was on a State Department program. She was studying teaching, she was studying library science, and was really concerned that in the mountains of Morocco, in the Atlas Mountains, there were many children who had no books. And so what she said was, I just really want to, as a follow-on project, is to make sure that children can have books to read. Did she consider herself a leader? Probably not, but she wanted to help. And so she started to talk to friends at the university, because at the same time, while she was at the university, there were other medical students who were feeling the same concern and worrying about children's health in the Atlas Mountains. So what they did is they combined their strengths, and they created medical caravans that also included books. And she created a program called Basmat al-Mal. I know I'm saying that terribly, but that this idea of creating a smile on children's faces. And they've done now hundreds of caravans where they are helping people with their with dentistry and breast cancer screening, as well as making sure that they're creating these small libraries in different communities across Morocco. So how do we change this idea of being a leader when we're thinking of our students, and helping them to see themselves as potential leaders where they can make the world a bit better? So being a teacher leader is the same. The role of a teacher is to lead our students to a better place. But it also can be leading beyond the classroom. How can we create, just like this program, it's a beautiful example of teacher leadership, is how do I help my colleagues to become better leaders? How do I help them to become better teachers? So we can think of that as another part of our role, in addition to leading our students. And as well, this empowering of our students to become leaders, just like Medium, and making the world a little bit better place. Meanwhile, we are in tough times. We are in tough times, obviously, from a health standpoint. What a fascinating time for us to be alive, where we're all enduring a pandemic together globally. So often our problems are potentially in a certain area, or in a certain socioeconomic class, or in a certain town. But here, as you can see, we are getting to experience tough times together. Meanwhile, we have friends who are dealing with environmental issues. In Honduras, for example, they just endured a large hurricane. We have things that are coming as a result of the personal problems, as being in the middle of a pandemic, with people losing their jobs, and dealing with health issues or the loss of people. And we've all this year as teachers have been dealing with professional challenges. So we are getting to, as a species, learn more about tough times. How have I been handling them, and sharing with others, is I look to cultures around the world and look into our lasting traditions, into the Islamic tradition, the Jewish tradition, the Christian tradition, cultural traditions that have been around for thousands of years, and find what are the things that we've been told for thousands of years that we can use to help us to get through tough times. What I love is that there's wisdom that we can draw from over thousands of years, but it's also now being backed up by systems theory, quantum physics, and brain science. So what we've been told to do by our grandmothers, whether we are in Bangladesh or Boston, Massachusetts, or Bangkok, Thailand, we're also finding that science is telling us that it makes lots of sense. It's how that we can work to make our brains be most effective. I'll talk about that today. We have also this whole new area of positive psychology, and I want to talk to you a bit about that. We learn from behavioral economics and leadership research. So again, the wisdom that has been around for us for thousands of years is really coming into the fold, and we can use it in our classrooms and in other places as well. Meanwhile, tough times, they are unnerving. Change or any kind of disruption causes stress, causes us exhaustion and overwhelm. I'm again talking about behavioral economics. In Daniel Kahneman's work, in the book Thinking Fast and Slow, he talks about how our brains struggle with change. If I was to say to you, multiply 2 by 2, which is something that you do with your students potentially. It's easy, we just say 4. But when change comes, we have to use a different part of our brain. It's the slow thinking brain. It's what we ask our students to do when we're asking them to learn a new language, and learn how to conjugate a verb, or when I ask you to divide 5,623 by 46, where we slow down and we think, oh, this is hard, and we have to slow down and struggle. But our slow thinking brain is where we learn and where we grow. So this idea that change can be scary and difficult, and exhausting, but it is also the best thing that we have going for us. And you as teachers know this. This is your work, helping others to see that challenge is always contains opportunity. Meanwhile, when change comes, one of the things that scares us so much is that we predict the future pretty terribly. You can see how people were expecting this year to have gone, and how many surprises that we've had. Things that we thought would fall apart have been bolstered and have grown. I've talked to teachers who thought that they wouldn't be able to teach their students online and have found all sorts of new innovative ways. So Dan Gilbert's work is could be of interest to you. It's called, he has a book called Stumbling Upon Happiness. And in that book, he looks at just how hard it is for us to predict the future. We predict the future in our prefrontal lobes. And so recognizing that this is one of the reasons that we struggle so much with change. So in your classrooms, your students are going to be struggling with change and all that we've dealt with this year. Your friends, your colleagues within the schools are struggling as well, and our families. So recognizing that these are difficult times and we need to be very kind to ourselves. Meanwhile, we are lucky because there is different skills that we can use to become better. I wanted to give you a short tutorial about how our brains work when we are dealing with change, how our brains are on change. When something new comes in and scares us, threatens us, we will naturally go to what ends up happening is stimulus comes into our minds, and there is in the center of our limbic system is something called the amygdala. The amygdala's job is to assess threat. It usually is always looking for something that, if something could minorly be upsetting, it's sending us to our reptilian brain, which is at the base of our skull. So your students, especially if they have learning differences or they're in a difficult situation in general, and you're hitting them with something new, they often can become defensive. They go into fight or flight and they shut down. So our work, but not only when we're teaching, but in our lives, is how to trick ourselves into our neocortex, which is up in the top of our brain. Our neocortex, we can think in past, present, and future. Our reptilian brain, when we are afraid, thinks only in the present and only thinks about us. It's not a very good place to problem solve. It's great for crisis. It gets us out of a burning building. It gets us away from a threatening person. But really where we want to be to learn and deal with difficult times is in our neocortex, in our prefrontal lobes. These are our place of highest brain processing. Obviously, well, not obviously, but those of you who have studied the brain also know that this is a rough cut, because we can use different parts of our brains. If something is damaged in one part of our brain, another part will actually compensate. But overall, when we're afraid, we go to our reptilian brain. It's not the best place to be, but we can trick ourselves and we can trick our students into our neocortex. And I want to give you some tips and techniques on that today. All right, there we go. Number one, best brain tip is the superpower of gratitude. Is that we start with what's working. And I want you to think about in your classrooms how you often will remind your students of what they already know so that they can feel the sense of confidence or what they like. So if we start from a place of gratitude, we have to process that gratitude in our neocortex. A trick to helping, so say you were in a staff meeting and you're finding people are like, this is really difficult, we are not doing, this is impossible to teach in this way online, and start to talk about what's not working. If you have the ability to ask, what is working, what has worked well, what have you seen that's been good this week, what you're doing is the people to deal with to actually to be able to do this work, they need to do the work of gratitude, they have to go into their neocortex. So you want to ask people 5 things that they're thankful for. One thing that we can do when we're struggling and in difficult times or struggling in our classroom is to notice, I get to be here. I am alive at this time. I get to experience this. We are told by traditions all around the world that we are to give gratitude not only for the good things, the easy things, but also the difficulties. So recognizing that as as teachers, one of our gifts is that we can show that, model the way of the discipline of when challenge comes, it's like school. It's a place to learn. It's a place to become better. It's a place to grow. I was working with a Fulbright teacher, and I loved uh, his strategy after every class. He would get done with his class. He was a high school professor or teacher, and he would sit in the lecture room and think about everything that had gone well and what had not gone well, and had gratitude that it would be something that he would learn from. This man was a master teacher, and I learned from him as a result. So, step one, power of gratitude. I love that this program originates in Pakistan, where the dominant religious tradition is Islam. And there is a recognition of the power of gratitude and counting our blessings 5 times a day. I give this advice to teachers around the world, that we have this opportunity to remember again and again, and to make it a discipline of stopping and saying, what is working well? Bringing myself again back into my neocortex, so that I am thinking in past, present, and future, and that I am problem solving well. A trick is when you are in a meeting, to start a meeting with 5 things that have gone well this week. And as we process it, things shift. Another 5 that can be helpful is to think of 5 things that also might have been difficult, but bringing us new learning. Another way to bring ourselves to the neocortex. Another trick is to I'm going to make sure everything's going well. Another thing that can work really well is each time you think of 5 things that are working well, is to, at the same time, think about 5 different things. There is a strategy of keeping a gratitude journal. And when we keep a gratitude journal, it's not to write down the same things every day, but to think of 5 new things every day. So that's part of the gratitude discipline. All right, we're going here. There we go. I give you this quote, actually from a poem by Jalaluddin Rumi. Those that make you return for whatever reason to Allah's solitude, be grateful to them. So how can we hold again this great wisdom that has been with us for thousands of years? And how, most of all, do we bring it to our students? So I want to stop for a minute and give you an opportunity to do an exercise. So I want you to think of a minor problem that you're experiencing. Then something that might be driving you a little bit crazy. And notice as you start to think about it. So everyone, think of something that's bothering you, something that might not be working. Maybe this technology is problematic for you. Maybe you're getting logged on and logged off. And notice your bodily responses. Are you feeling constriction in your throat? How is your breath? Noticing what happens when you think about something that bugs you. All right. And now I would love if you would consider writing down 5 things that you're thankful for, things that are working well. What might you be thankful for in this situation, the situation that's causing you problems? So I might think about technology that's, driving me crazy. And
Yes, we have 49 participants. So if you could, type some of your responses in the chat.
Okay, let me go look. Wonderful, thank you. I will go up here. Let's see if I can see. Whoop. I'm gonna see how to get. This is the great thing. Talking about technology. Here we go. I'm going to the chat. Oh, wonderful. Welcome, participants. Look, we've got folks from all over. Put your questions in the chat. Okay, yes. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. But share with me 5 things, my friends, that you are thankful for. You are very welcome. You're thankful for this presentation. That's great. I love it. Good health. Alhamdulillah. That's great. What else? Family. Yeah. Life. This workshop. Thank you. That I'm alive. I have a family. I'm thankful for a lovely family. I have children. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Well-being, humor. I know it's so helpful, isn't it? Technology. Yes, we love it and it drives us crazy. But you have many friends. Yeah. Yeah. That we are able to do this together. Technology, my friends, parents, being a teacher, and how lucky we are. These are great. Healthy children. I love how many of us are saying technology as we talk about this, and family. Notice how, as we read this and we hear what others are thankful for, how our bodies might shift. Professional development, PhD in process. These are wonderful lecturers, moderators, presenters, students. How lucky we all are. And notice how you start to feel. I feel such gratitude that I get to be with all of you today, and I can feel my heart swell. I can feel my feel better as I listen to all of this. This is wonderful. I know. So even stress, how can we be thankful for stress? I know. How is that? The COVID, one of the benefits of COVID is look at who is connecting all over the world. Thank you. It is a blessing to me to be your speaker today. So noticing this, so that's my tip for you. When you notice that your students are struggling, is you can stop and teach them this gratitude practice. That we're learning to use online and remote technology to teach. How different this all is for all of us. How we're growing in new ways. This is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for using the chat and helping me with this. Oh, okay, so we're going to continue on. But so number 1 skill, using gratitude. I love this German proverb that no one is luckier than he who thinks himself so. So this attitude of gratitude shifts everything. We notice with people who have lived long and very healthy lives that often they have practice of gratitude. That this is something that they're finding if someone has experienced a heart attack, for example, and they're doing studies on recovery, they're noticing that the people who see it as a potential opportunity, who count their blessings every day, get healthier quicker. And have greater recovery and survival rates, which is so crazy. So just this attitude of gratitude protects us and gives us a better immune system. I love someone was saying that a teacher is always learning and improving their knowledge. So if we're always seeing that any kind of conflict that we have, something we don't know, is a place of a place of opportunity and gratitude, it changes everything. And we're going to talk more about that here today. So number 2, I want to make sure I get through all 4 of these tips to support you and your students, is to be open to the outcome and not attached to the outcome. Have we learned about flexibility in 2020 or what? Here's the challenge. Our brains are with our prefrontal lobes, as we're trying to look for the future, we often want the world to be a certain way. So I start to think, oh, COVID is happening. Oh, I want to make sure I can teach my students in a certain way. Meanwhile, our brains will get us too attached. We grab on too tightly to the possible way that the future could be. So this is what we're working with, is we want to be flexible. I mean, we want to be planful and bring forward excellence, but at the same time be open for flexibility, open to the outcome, not attached to the outcome. So when we teach our students that there's lots of different ways to learn, we give them a power versus this is the only way you can do it. This is the only way that is right. When we say we could look at it this way, or we could look at it this way, or we could all stand on our heads and think of it this way, we give them a resilience that is critical. We learn this again, going back to the different spiritual traditions. We learn this in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Hindu tradition, where they say, do your work, but don't be attached to the results. So work for excellence, but be open to what comes. We find this in the saying of inshallah, or in Spanish, we would say ojalá, which is the sense that the divine be willing, Allah willing, how we might see that the future can hold many things. This ability to look at things from a flexible standpoint, to be adaptable and adaptive leaders, expands our listening skills. If I'm only listening for a certain thing because I want it to be a certain way, what we know from brain science is we don't listen very well, and we miss opportunity. So if we can be open to, inshallah, things could be there, things might go this way or they might not go this way, it expands our listening skills. So we as teachers are really called to practice flexibility. Our students that have learning differences are gifts to us in this way, where they look at things from many different perspectives. Those of you who have done research and work in dyslexia, for example, recognize that a student who has that gift in a way can see things not only from the front, but they see it from the sides and the back and above and below so often. And as a result, a P ends up looking like a B, and a D, right? And a Q. So this is the gift. If we see it as a gift, everything changes. Our students that are kinesthetic learners that need, when we're teaching them, maybe to do it with a song or getting up or working on something, teach us how to teach better, and that things can be taught in many different ways. From a leadership perspective, this is called adaptive leadership. I love that there is a Zen proverb that says, or a Zen koan, a puzzle, is to say, how can you hold tightly with an open hand? How can you hold tightly with an open hand? So how do we hold excellence for ourselves and our students, but get to it flexibly? How can I flexibly implement my vision in my classroom or my lesson plan this year? And that has been what you all have been doing, and I am sure been doing it with great flexibility and creativity. It calls us to creativity. So often we think of conflict being a problem, but can we shift the attitude within ourselves and within our students to see it as a call to creativity, to creatively realizing our vision and our goals? So here are some questions for you that I suggest to consider daily. Is, where can I be more open to outcome? Where am I hanging on too tightly instead of holding on tightly with an open hand? How might I flexibly implement my vision or lesson plan this year? How often each day am I surprised? This is a great recognition of, am I looking at things with blinders on, trying to go just the way I've always done them, which is very natural, very human, but instead, where am I allowing myself to be surprised? Another trick is to look at where am I might be too attached. And one of the ways is if I'm taking myself too seriously. Are you taking yourself too seriously? It's very easy to see when you've taken yourself too seriously is that people cannot tease you. So if they say, "Oh, you think you're a good teacher," and if you can laugh and say, inshallah, maybe, potentially, I might be someday. I'm not too attached, but it's like, yes, of course I'm a good teacher, and I have done, if I'm in that voice and in that thinking, I am missing the opportunity to be flexible. I'm missing the opportunity, as one of our friends was saying here, the ability to continue to learn and to gather knowledge throughout our lives. So this is the gift. This is the work of being an adaptive leader, to being a teacher leader. So that's I give you those 4 questions to hold. But notice, how often are you surprised, and how easy is it for someone to tease you, to joke with you, or for you to laugh at yourself? I give you this poem, Allow. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt or a pandemic, containing a tornado, dam a stream, and it will create a new channel. Resist, and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in, the wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. When loss rips the doors of your rips off the doors of your heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth. In the choice to let go of your known way of being or teaching, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes. So this is another attitude that we're trying to hold, all the while holding tightly to excellence in teaching, but with an open hand. How are we doing? I look like I froze. There I am. Okay, I'm back. Good. So number 3, does anyone have any questions about flexibility? We'll make sure there's questions at the same time. This is great. Okay, we're doing great. I wanted to give you a symbol to use in these times of difficult times in teacher leadership. Is the symbol called the mandorla. The mandorla is that almond-shaped intersection between the 2 circles. Some of you on this call are math teachers or professors, and you may call that a Venn diagram. But it also is an ancient Western symbol that is very similar to the yin-yang symbol. We find it on Roman buildings that have been around for 3,000 years. We find it on wells. It is believed that it is the intersection between the opposites. So the yin-yang symbol in the Chinese tradition or Taoist tradition is this ability to bring the opposites together, to look for the and in a situation. So this will make a whole bunch more sense when I give you this next slide. So when you think about the pandemic, it is both and, isn't it? We have had all sorts of risks during this time, but incredible new opportunities, just like we were saying here today, that we get to be together. Look at this, that we all are together and enjoying this presentation that would not have happened without the pandemic. Some of us have loss of work, but it gives us time to be doing new and creative things that we might not have been able to do. There's been great tragedy in many, and if not all of our communities, but there's new connections that have been created that we've never had before. There's fear and there's growth. There is great loss, but also great gains. Yes, you've had more time to spend with our families. How incredible is that? And at the same time, we have been worrying about our parents, and our colleagues. So how to be holding all of that, all at the exact same time, and how can we help our students do the same? So with this way of thinking, is to think about how do we honor both the tragedy and the opportunities the exact same time. And one of the ways to do this is to watch what metaphors are we using for crisis or challenge. There's a great book by George Lakoff. It was written in 1980, and it's called Metaphors We Live By. We actually use metaphors for everything, if you think about it. That everything is a metaphor. I'm going to put that out there as a challenge to consider. Is that everything is a metaphor. Uh, so often when I'm talking and I'm teaching about conflict resolution, people will say, that's a battle we need to overcome. They're using a metaphor. So they're taking a challenge in their life and they're seeing it as a problem, a battle, that the opponents are someone who should be vanquished. Meanwhile, as teachers, we know that when we create challenge, when we create conflict in our students, we want them to see it as school. We want them to see it as an opportunity to learn. And we can use that strategy not only in the classroom, but beyond. So we shift the frame, shift the language so that we can see the pandemic as a paradox. We can see the pandemic as a mandorla where it has both good and challenge. We can see our challenges as as school. We can also see our opponents as dance partners. You think about the martial artists that get onto the mat and they see their opponents in their opening bow as a teacher. They say, thank you for this opportunity to learn. I know that you will be a great teacher, but at the exact same time, you see that paradox. They say, I recognize that you could hurt or destroy me. So they're holding the paradox at the exact same time, holding this the larger whole of conflict as being both risky and a great opportunity at the exact same time. Oh, we're getting a great question here about how can we promote these leadership qualities within our students during distance learning. I like that question. I like that question. Again, how can we involve our students and have them actively leading? How can we have them actively leading when they're not in our classrooms? I can give you an example I've seen is that some of teachers I've talked to are actually employing service learning in their teaching. Service learning is this concept, I think many of you know, is getting your students out into a situation where they have to apply their learning. And this can be challenging, right? Where if you're teaching English and they're at their homes, is trying to find a way. So it may be that you have them teaching another student via distance learning online, teaching them English, and then having them, your students, then doing reflections, looking at what they're learning as they're serving, as they're leading. So I pass that along is how can we give our students this opportunity to lead, to learn to lead by leading, and you encouraging that. People need help right now. We have our elders that are often in my country that are very lonely and are at home. Are at home. So, are there ways that we can use if someone does have technology, and someone else brings up beautifully that what do we do if our students do not have the internet? Another challenge, how do we creatively resolve that? Um, and I'm sure I see these as huge, wonderful questions that it would be wonderful that you all were, if there is a follow on to this, if these are questions that can be answered by one another. And I leave that to our wonderful facilitator, if that's something where these conversations can continue. I know that libraries in some countries are creating internet access. That city governments are creating Wi-Fi zones where students can actually sit outside, distanced, and be able to access. Um, I give these as examples, but again, some of these situations are a lot more difficult. Uh, oh, this is a big question, is what are the techniques we can use to get active participation from all of our students in online sessions? I know that in 2 days you actually have a session, or it might even be tomorrow, on online learning. That's a big and wonderful question. And if I was getting to teach you about distance learning, I would add on that. But I know that people on this call also have answers to these. So I'm seeing that we've got 4 marvelous questions here that maybe there can be an online discussion forum through this program. So I pass that along as in hopes that we can make that happen. But these are fabulous questions, and these are the challenges that we are dealing with. Difficult, and giving us new ways to think about what our jobs are as teachers. So this fits well with your questions, is let me not pray to be sheltered from the dangers, but be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain or the challenges, but for the heart to conquer it. It's from the poet Tagore. I want to make sure that I get to you. So here, and this fits beautifully with what we're talking about. And I notice, whew, the time has flown by. So I have a conflict with time here. We don't have much time before this is supposed to be done. But number 4 is exactly what we're doing here today, which is to have another tip is the power of community. I see these questions and I think I can give you a little idea, but I'm just one. Meanwhile, we are in a community right now, this beautiful big community that has been created through this webinar series, where there could be a community of practice around how we get active participation in our students, how you're doing evaluation, how are these are wonderful. Look at this, look at, people are already starting to answer and give ideas. How do we do written outputs? This tip is exactly what we're talking about. And we see this in cultures all around the world, is we need community. In the Buddhist tradition, they call community, or the Sangha, the third jewel of Buddhism. The third jewel. I think about my friends who each night during Ramadan gather, and this is the challenge, during Ramadan this year, is to be in community and find ways to be in community, and the power of that to strengthen us, and to also to support others in our community. When we are in difficult times, we join a club, whether we want to or not. So some of us may have lost a parent. We join this club. And yet there are other people who have lost parents, or other people who have parents who have dementia, and that we're not alone, and that together we learn and we get better. I love just watching this chat and seeing that here you all are, bringing these possibilities to one another already. So I am a big proponent of communities of practice, is finding others who are in the same situation as me and looking within the community to learn together. We may share readings or resources. We may read a book chapter by chapter, month by month, and become better. The other piece of this is that we can keep an eye on each other. So if I'm dealing with difficult times, if I have a colleague of teachers who are helping me, and also if I teach my students the power of a team, the power of community, everything changes. For them to know that they're not alone. And this is another thing that we can do. Professional team members, I have to say, are also very helpful. If we are in a situation where we are dealing with great grief, grief counselors can be very helpful. Master teachers that have figured out things that we may not know about online learning or remote teaching. So that is the fourth tip that I wanted to make sure I gave you in time, because we are already out of time, but is to look and to assure that you have a team. And I hope that this community that is here, gathered here today, can be an ongoing community and support for one another. I think that is one of the underlying objectives of this great work that you put together here. So this is my final slide, but I want to leave you with this quote from the author, Kurt Vonnegut. Thinking about your students is, what should young people do with their lives today? Many things, obviously, but the most daring thing is to create stable communities in which the terrible disease of loneliness can be cured. This is a challenging time to accomplish this, but I have faith in all of you, finding ways that our students, our young people, can make this become more true, and to cure the terrible disease of loneliness. So I think I have done it. It is exactly an hour. It is 10:30 p.m. here, Sunday evening in Montana in the United States. I think it is not 10:30 in the morning in Pakistan. And again, all over the world, we've got wonderful friends here. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to take it over, and we can answer questions if you wish.
Great. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. And, I'm all gratitude for this wonderful session. It was so inspiring. And I will say, let us all sink in.
You are very welcome. Oh, I'm going to watch the chat and see what everyone is saying. And I hope. So, Amandula, do you want to, is there like an ongoing, I know we have the Facebook page. Are there ways that these topics can continue to be worked on by this wonderful community?
Yes. Yes, sure. They are very welcome to join our PLNs. We are available on Facebook and on Twitter, on Instagram. These recordings will be made available on our YouTube channel. So yeah, these are platforms they can join and keep these conversations going.
Wonderful. Yeah, because I think there's some great conversations. You've got a circle of wisdom from around the world as you all are learning about remote learning, how to engage your students, tricks that you've found to create more active participation and leadership. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I thank you for
Yes, and especially,
Honduras. Go ahead.
yeah, especially I like the way you combined all those religions, and your presentation was very inclusive, plurality of ideas, and we have at teacher development webinars a very diverse group, people from all over the world, all continents, and I don't know if someone is from Antarctica, but yeah, you know, so, so these
It's
we are
wonderful.
community of
Yeah.
over 15,000
It's wonderful how many. Yeah, we've got someone from Northern Africa, from Tunisia, 6:30 in the morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We have someone who is in Honduras, which is it's very, very late there right now. Julio joined us. What a joy to have everyone with us here today. You are so, so very welcome. What a joy. All right, I will stay. Oh, we've got Mongolia here with us. Fantastic. Got friends from all over. What a joy. Thank you again. And thank you for, Amandala, this is amazing what you are giving and sharing with the world. This is what a gift. Speaking of gratitude. Oh my goodness. And it's 12:35 at night. Eddie, where are you? Okay, let's see. So 12:35 at night. Oh, you are. Tell us where you are. Oh, we've got Bhutan here, from Peru, Pakistan. What a joy. How fun to have everyone with us.
Uzbekistan, Myanmar.
Philippines, Rioni, welcome. This is all so great. Oh, we have Miramar. Such a joy. Oh, so if anyone had any other questions or if I can be of service, it sounds like what we can do as well is put a PDF of the slides as well
Sure.
on the Facebook page. Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So thanks everyone for your participation. I really appreciate all these wonderful ideas and you waking up this morning in Pakistan and attending in this session. And it's pretty late for you, Deidre, but I appreciate your participation and amazing ideas. And again, I'm all gratitude. So this recording, if you're interested, will be made available on our YouTube channel. So you can join Teacher Development Webinars YouTube channel and share this with your greater community. And you can always reach out to us at teacherdevelopment.webinars@gmail.com. And so yeah, at this point, I always remind you that we are this second wave of COVID-19. So please be responsible for your lives, for your loved ones' lives. Keep practicing physical distancing, keep wearing masks, and don't forget social solidarity. Thanks very much and be safe. Bye bye.